Hey guys, I'm Janet on occasion, and today we're going over the Khorne roster reveal. Once again, make yourself a cup of tea, okay? I can't stress this enough. Okay, I can tell from the average viewer duration that most of you guys haven't got the point yet. This is going to be like an hour long. It always is. Make yourself a cup of tea. Good. Good. Got a cup of tea? You got a cup of tea. Good. Okay, fine. I'll get on with it. So, anyway, right. Total War Warhammer 3 Khorne roster reveal. So, thanks again to Ben Barrett for writing this blog. Welcome back to the roster reveals for Total War Warhammer 3. The Blood God thirsts, the Skull-Throne hungers, and the forces of Khorne venture to the battlefield for harvest. They are single-minded, bloody, and potent, defined by a distinct hatred of and resistance to magic. The cowardice of ranged combat has little appeal, beyond the exception of cannons which broadside enemies with the skulls of those Khorne has consumed. The immortal races cannot hope to match his army's ferocity, and the other Chaos Lords cannot survive in a toe-to-toe fight. Should they run rampant, Khorne's forces will cleave the heads from all they find in never-ending quest to please their god. Below, you'll find all the details on each unit you can recruit as a servant of Khorne. As our first roster reveal for one of the demon factions, you will see some things you recognise from other Chaos factions, but also plenty of completely new Lords, heroes, and units. Total War Warhammer 3 is still in development, so what you're seeing may be subject to change, and that's exactly why we haven't given precise details for each stat. So, fair enough. So, this is an interesting one. Straight out of the gate, they say you'll see stuff from other factions, right? Because Demons of Chaos is one book, okay? So this game, it's mostly based on 8th edition, and Demons of Chaos was a single book for all 4 gods, right? It was one book. There's just not many demons. So to make a full roster for each, they have to have, marked units. They have to have, mortals with, marks of each god. That's how they have to supplement it. But what I find interesting is there's, as design choice, they go in the direction that I prefer, which is probably going to be unpopular for a lot of people, but it'll make for a better game, in my opinion. So they seem to be giving basically each demon roster, well, for this demon roster at least, I don't have a lot to hypothesize here, but I'm just assuming that the stuff we will see isn't going to be present in other factions, right, in the other demon factions. It seems to be that they've picked units that fit the faction, and then given them the marks and the flavour of that god, rather than just giving them everything. So they don't seem to be just making generically we'll give them all Warriors of Chaos, we'll give them all this, we'll give them all that, right? They seem to be hand-picking stuff that fits the most, which I think is great, because that's how it should be, because I really want each faction to feel unique and have distinct gameplay. So, by the looks of it, they are doing that, but we'll see. So, let's get to it, shall we? Let's get to it. We'll talk about that more later, and my thoughts on it. But I'd love to hear your thoughts on all this as well. So, Khorne unit roster. Khorne Legendary Lord, Skarbrand. So, of course, it's got to be Skarbrand. This was not a surprise to most people. And obviously it has been announced already, but shouldn't be a surprise, because they're focusing on demons. A lot of people are going, I was hoping for Valkyr or something. But, that's not a demon, They're focusing on demons. These are very much the demon rosters, It's not just Chaos Divided, these are the Chaos Demon factions. So they have to be led by a demon, right? That's just, you got to, right? You got to. It's on brand, The tagline for the game is conquer your demons. So we have Skarbrand. So, the Bloodthirster Skarbrand was once the greatest of all Khorne's demons. No other had piled so many skulls before the Skull-Throne. One dark day, Skarbrand's fierce pride grew hot, and blinded by rage, he smote the blood god a mighty blow. So one thing he doesn't mention here, because they probably just don't want to muddy the waters with mention of other gods, is it was supposedly Tzeentch whispering into his ear, saying, I bet you could fight him. I bet you could defeat Khorne. You're a big boy. Go fight daddy. And this happened. So, incandescent with wrath, Khorne cursed Skarbrand's name and choked all personality from him, as if he really had any personality. I mean, seriously. I want to kill things. Nice one. Anyway, so, leaving only the bottomless rage that had caused him to attack, since that fateful day Skarbrand has wandered the mortal and immortal realms, drowning his sins in the blood of the slain, though he no longer has the wit to fully understand why. So, it's not so much personality as it's a bit mindless. Although that's just Khorne, Just, there's nothing subtle about Khorne. It's just murderous rage. That's their one note, but whatever. Skarbrand is a ludicrous force on the battlefield, a titan of blood and rage. Even in his disgraced state, his incredible commitment to Khorne makes Skarbrand ferocious in his pursuit of enemies, near impervious to magic, and a legendary commander of the demonic hordes of Khorne. He is constantly on the warpath, seeking only that which is detailed in the battle cry, blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. So his unique abilities and skills, Wrathful Reaper. Skarbrand, once in the midst of battle, will not be distracted, and will kill until the killing is done. Nothing will stand before his fury. So I'm assuming he'll be unbreakable. It's just an assumption there. But, you know, more so than all demons are. But I wonder if he'll not melt like the rest. I wonder. But we'll see. So, Rage embodied, all those who see the exiled one in battle are drawn to the ferocity of his combat. They will join him, even if it means their death. So his sort of thing, being a ludicrous rage monster, is that that's contagious. So everything around him is affected by just how much rage he has. He is so rage-filled that he sucks everything, you know, but rage from everyone else. So it's he's like a angry black hole, I guess. Something like that. Anyway, so I do wonder what will happen with that, because the fact is he doesn't only whip up his own troops into a fury, but also everyone else. So I did speculate this when we heard about him being revealed, but I don't know if he'll give sort of like melee attack buffs and melee defense debuffs to everything around him, or if he'll rampage enemies that are too close by, or like he'll have a rampage effect on his weapon, kind of like witch elves, you know. I don't know. I have no idea. I wonder how that'll actually play out. But I do hope there is some level of sort of contagiousness that forces enemies to seek, you know, combat with him, or go mad and attack each other, or something. Something that sort of fits his lore. But yeah, super interesting. Oh, also, uniquely to Bloodthirsters, he can't fly. So him just sort of stomping about, you could just sort of try and keep away from him. But if he has ways to just pull people towards him, then maybe he's not going to be as easy to avoid as a lot of Footlords are. So I really wonder. I think it could be really interesting if, yeah, they could give him all kinds of weird, gimmicky, crazy stuff going on. So I can't wait to find out what that's going to be. So, Khorne Lords. So, generic Lords, we have the Exalted Bloodthirster. So, this is going to be a trend. We will see just sort of different prefixes to units. There's a lot of repetition just because there aren't that many demons, frankly. There aren't that many demons to work with. So, Exalted Bloodthirster being a Lord pick here. So, Exalted Bloodthirsters are not only the deadliest of Khorne's demons, but the mightiest of all demonkind. A single such beast is a harbinger of bellowing death, destructive beyond telling, and lives only to slaughter, maim, and destroy all that it encounters. It is the fury of war given form, the unfettered primal rage of the world made manifest, and such should be expected of a beast whose master is the dark and bloodletting, is the dark god of bloodletting, slaughter, and murder. Nice they put murder in there to sort of hint at, you know, Cain, the god of murder, which is sort of presumed to be an aspect of Khorne. So it's kind of cool to see. But anyway, second only to Skarbrand in their power, both on and off the battlefield, Exalted Bloodthirsters are monstrous, destructive, and incredible forces of nature, terrifying, flying, blood-fueled death-bringers. They lead only the mightiest of war hosts, which makes you wonder, what makes the Herald of Khorne worth bringing then? So, of course, normally, with every other faction, with, seriously, every other faction, we have always had, as like the core, you know, the basic starting units of any faction, has always been a melee lord and a spellcaster lord. That's what we've always had, with some variety with things like, you know, sort of various hybrid things, like Malekith was technically a spellcaster, but he was still very much a melee-focused, you know, the bloodthirsty powerhouse, and Morathi could hold her own in melee combat, you know, had some good debuff stuff, but was the caster lord first and foremost, you know. So some hybridization, but that's the trend. There's always a melee lord and a spellcaster lord is always the focus. Here, they can't do that. No spellcasters. None. So what makes this, you know, what makes each one distinct? But it does seem they're doing that. So, Herald of Khorne. Most feared of all amongst the bloodletters are the dread Heralds of Khorne. To hear their call is to know your skull will be collected in mere moments by the deliberate, merciless leaders of Khorne's armies. As the Herald's rage grows, all nearby demons of Khorne become gripped by an irresistible fury that lends further intensity to the carnage. They hack and cleave their foes until there's nothing left save a mound of corpses and another victory for the Blood God. Occasionally, a particularly favoured Herald of Khorne is granted a Juggernaut. Mighty beasts of groaning iron and brass, taller than a man and possessed of crushing mass, to better pursue his master's goals. Such a pairing is far deadlier than the sum of its parts. Should a foe survive the frenzied biting and goring, they are likely to be crushed beneath its brass body or cut down by the rider. Those who go above and beyond the call to slaughter may be granted a Blood Throne, a mighty demon engine armoured in brass and driven into battle by iron-shod wheels, which crush and mangle all who stand in its path. From atop this macabre throne, the Herald searches for foes whose skulls will make the most audacious offerings. Those plundered from cowards are fed into the Blood Throne's baleful workings, consumed in fire to bring the demon engine fresh vigour. Those taken from the Valiant are claimed by the Herald and fused with the throne itself, to stand throughout eternity as a grim monument to the futility of opposing Khorne. So mount options here are the Juggernaut and the Blood Throne. So this stuff is So this is cool. So what it sounds like is, instead of having a melee lord and a spellcast lord, we have a melee lord and a support lord. Because by the sounds of it, Bloodthirsters are going to be more a duelist. They're going to have skills that augment themselves to wreak greater damage, whereas it looks like the Bloodletters here, the Heralds of Khorne, are going to buff those around them to deal greater carnage. So that is actually a big distinction, you know? That's actually a very big distinction. The idea of facilitating more carnage for the rest of your units, or just relying on the one unit, you know? That's a big difference, and I really like the sound of it. And the mount options are really cool too, because the Blood Throne, for instance, I'm pretty sure that gains health when in combat. So that's fun. That's fun. But yeah, just getting more and more buffs the more this thing kills. So yes, it's going to be in melee combat. You know, you're going to want it fighting on the front line and getting as many kills as possible, but it's going to be augmenting the rest of the army rather than just itself, which sounds really cool. I really like the sound of it. So next up we have Khorne Heroes. Hang on, is that right? Yes, that's the other Lord choice. And then yes, Khorne Heroes, Cultist of Khorne. So this I find quite surprising. There's just Cultist of Khorne. It sounds too mediocre for a hero choice, just Cultist of Khorne. I would have thought it would just be like, I don't know, Cult Leader of Khorne or something. Something that sounds a little higher rank than just a Cultist of Khorne. But yeah, okay, so one of the heroes, we have a mortal hero, which is interesting. But again, it's either that or they have a Bloodthirster hero, which Bloodthirsters are a bit too important to demote like that. But anyway, so the Cult of Khorne can be found across the world. Less fond of the clandestine trappings that accompany the other dark powers, the blood cults quickly take hold of arenas and fighting pits, although secret martial lodges dedicated to the Lord of Skulls have been discovered in the higher echelons of society. It is the cultists of Khorne that establish and propagate such sects, roaming far and wide to serve their god, spreading corruption in their stead. Their methods are as often insidious as they are direct, from founding illicit fighting dens to causing all-out riots. Strong cultists are constantly hunting out rivals to fight, with the victor claiming the slain warriors as their own. Some will aspire to rise and become true champions of Khorne, but there are plenty eager supplicants who simply wish to murder and slay in the blood god's name, and so spread the cult's influence far and wide. Some ride a great war host, a sign of status for only, great war horse, not war host, just crowd surfing. They love crowd surfing. So a sign of status for only the best warriors. The steeds ridden by these tribes are powerful beasts, foul-tempered and strong of limb. Once a rider has broken such a horse, it will remain loyal to him until death, but remain vicious and unruly should a stranger approach, fed on a diet of human flesh and watered-down blood. These snorting, high-spirited steeds have a glint of intelligent menace in their eyes, and will trample, kick, and bite as if berserk when engaged at close quarters. So, pretty cool. Also sounds a lot like the Hagranim. Hagranim is a carnivorous horse that lives in the Pale Sisters Mountains, which is hilarious. But it sounds like that, basically. It makes me wonder if the Hagranims were once, like, chaos steeds or something, that, ended up in those mountains and bred. I do wonder. But yeah, some evil intelligence behind their eyes. It's kind of cool. So yeah, okay, I like that. I like that a lot. So this sounds interesting to me, and it makes me wonder if these will have quite a more of a more sort of campaign-focused stuff. You know, the idea of just having a cultist roaming the place, trying to start rebellions and things. I wonder if they could affect public order in a big way. Like, I wonder if there's potential for that. If they've sort of, I don't know, made heroes more interesting on the campaign map, frankly. I find campaign map agent nonsense is really boring, but if you could somehow incite a rebellion of fanatics or something, how cool would that be? But at the very least, it's sort of insinuating that kind of vibe here, which I like, even if it's just a case of he can affect public order a bit. Like, that's fine, you know. It still elicits that same sort of thematic effect, which is fine. But it would be interesting if they went a bit deeper with what they could do. But you never know. You never know. So next up we have the Blood Reaper. So this is again a blood letter. You know, like the Herald of Khorne we've already seen. So bloodletters who have proven their devotion and legitimised their existence, Blood Reapers are some of Khorne's most deadly individual fighters. Each carries a Hellblade, a jagged iron sword whose blackened blade glows with heinous enchantment. A wound from one of these weapons can slay even the hardiest hero, draining their soul and sucking dry their shriveled corpse. Lovely. The Hellblade is formed from the Blood Reaper's own essence and can never be discarded nor torn from its grasp. Each life taken by it strengthens the Blood Reaper, fueling both its power and rage. As such, the Blood Reaper is even more terrifying at a battle's close than its start, having gorged itself on the slaughter it has caused. Yum. If that were not enough to crush and terrify a foe, a deadly combination of battle-frenzied Blood Reaper and the unstoppable crushing mass of a juggernaut of Khorne can appear. There are also those that sit atop a mighty blood throne as a mark of status, a physical manifestation of the blood god's favour. The Blood Reaper that resides atop its pinnacle does not rest or repose as would another in its position, but prowls restlessly as the chariot advances, eyes and tongue twitching madly in anticipation of the next kill. Gross. Favoured by their god, Blood Reapers are the locus of any fight they charge into, bringing the energy of their god and his fury together. They can inspire those around them to ever-increasing ferocity, hardiness, and murder. So this just sounds like a toned-down version of the Herald. Even with the mounts as well. I think it's a shame that these guys have the Blood Throne as well. I would like to see some variety between the different mounts, because if you get the same bonuses just putting a Blood Throne on a Herald, then getting picking the Lord pick, you might just think, screw it, I'll get the Bloodthirster then, if I can just bring a Blood Throne to buff my troops anyway, right? That's kind of what I feel, but you never know. It depends how these abilities work. But I generally find it a bit sad when you just see a Lord and Hero choice pretty much being the same. Because, like, people rarely bother bringing, say, an Archlector. People just be happy with a Warrior Priest to do that job, So, anyway, but still, cool to see. Khorne units, Khorne infantry. So, straight away, Chaos Warriors. So, we have Chaos Warriors of Khorne. Beautiful concept art for all this stuff, by the way. I'm a big fan of concept art. As much as I'd love to see the in-game models, because it's a reveal. They're not really being revealed so much as mentioned. You know what I mean? But anyway, I love seeing the concept art, so I'm torn. Whether I like the delivery or not, but I like the concept art, so fine. So, a Chaos Warrior of Khorne has no need of food, drink, or sleep, for he is nourished by the carnage that he wrecks. Very cool. He has nothing but contempt for the weak or the cowardly, and goes about the business of murder with a vengeance, for there is always a part of the man who was that rages against that which he has become. So there's still some semblance of humanity in there, but, well. So Chaos Warrior's only solace is in slaughter, the fulfillment of his new existence as an instrument of his blasphemous god's will, and at battle's end his armour is splattered with the lifeblood of the slain. I think we just call that blood, actually. I think we just literally just call that blood, but sure. Chaos Warriors of Khorne are fighters of unmatched prowess. Their strength is infernal, and their bodies are as tough as the Iron Mountains. Imbued with the power of the Blood God and encased in suits of hell-forged armour, a Chaos Warrior is equal to several battle-hardened mortal men. They are no longer truly human, but living weapons, honed perfectly for the bloody tasks before them. Ooh. So, variants. We have 3 different variants, which we have seen. They were all present in the battle demo. Axe and shield. I like that it's an axe instead of a sword, because usually it's sword and board, but no. Axe and shield. Just a little bit more bloodthirsty, you know? A little bit better for lopping off those heads. Just got more weight behind the swing. Dual axes, so you got even more weight behind more swings. And halberds as well, which are pretty much just long axes when you think about it. So, you know, all good for lopping off heads. There's a theme there. Khorne-like skulls. You thought I was going to say something else, didn't you? Well, you're filthy. So, notable characteristics. Like many of Khorne's chosen, enter a frenzy so long as they are enjoying the battle. Blood, death, and the promise of victory. They love it. Berserkers, with their dual axes, are brutal and terrifying anti-infantry warriors who will tear unsuspecting foes limb from limb. Khorne has few non-demon followers in his armies. Whether that makes them cattle or commanders is up to you. Very fun. So yeah, Chaos Warriors. So Chaos Warriors fit Khorne very, very well. Obviously having just generic, just sort of Chaos Warriors as like a thing in all the armies is doable. But I don't think that has to be the case. I think for Slaanesh, for instance, I think Marauders would be a better thing. It's just a little less ready for battle, and a little more ready for everything else. So I think there is potential to have some variety there, but if they are going to have something generic and present in all the demon armies, just having marked Warriors of Khorne is something they could do, and I wouldn't have any problems with it. But the thing that I'm hoping they avoid is they just give everything to everyone. I know that all of the demons should have access to all the Chaos Warriors stuff, but I think that would actually limit gameplay variety. It would homogenize everything. So we'll see. Whatever the next roster reveal is, we'll see how that aligns with the rest of this. See if they are going to give specific, sort of chosen units to specific factions or not. But as you see, we go later on in this roster, there is more of a hint at that, I think. So we'll see. So, next up we have Bloodletters of Khorne. Because, we already have 2 Bloodletter things, but we haven't got the unit yet. So, Bloodletters of Khorne. The demon hordes of Khorne consist of ferocious Bloodletters, deadly warriors believed to have been foremost amongst the Blood God's followers in mortal life, and whose will is as implacable and blood-hungry as Khorne himself. When loosed into the fray, Bloodletters sprint from one enemy to the next, hacking the foe apart before springing away in search of new victims. With each fresh kill, the Bloodletters loose great shouts of victory that echo across the battlefield and chill the souls of all who hear. So, Bloodletters, isn't it? Much like we've seen before, but a unit rather than a model. So, notable characteristics. An advancing pack of Bloodletters is a fearful sight for any and all mortals. Of course, all demons cause fear, so, there you go. Gain power as they kill, infusing their hellblades with the blood, gore, and screams of the slain. So, whereas usually, if there's something a bit scary, you can just sort of throw fodder at it. Against Khorne, you can't do that, because you're just feeding them greater stat bonuses. So, really cool that, you're sort of... you got to be decisive or tricksy or something. You can't just go toe-to-toe with them, and you can't try and distract them with easy prey while you focus on more dangerous things. There's a cost to doing so. So I love that. As with all demons, will disintegrate and flee to the Chaos Realms when their leadership is broken. So notice it didn't say that with the Lord and Hero pick, so I wonder if there'll be slight differences there. But anyway. Exalted Bloodletters of Khorne. Khorne's chosen, the Naked Slayers, the Takers of Skulls, deadly warriors believed to have been foremost amongst the Blood God's followers in mortal life, and whose will is as implacable and blood-hungry as Khorne himself. Exalted Bloodletters gather in regiments, chanting their brutal praises to Khorne in the fashion of the warriors they are believed to have once been. Each unit marches beneath a gore-soaked banner upon which the names of their victims are inscribed. So they're kicking butts and taking names. Literally. Or they're just making them up. What do you call that guy? Squelchy. Squelchy. He made a squelching noise. I'll call him Squelchy. So, notable characteristics. They have excellent penmanship. So, notable characteristics. The bigger, badder, more murderous brothers and cousins of the Bloodletters, but not so big and bad as to be the hero or the Lord pick for Bloodletters. So, you know, there are limits to how many demons there are, which is a shame. There's definitely going to be some repetition. So, yeah, that's 4 Bloodletter units we have. So, I just did that and said 4, didn't I? 4. So, share many of the same traits, only stronger, more accurate, and hardier, while a straight upgrade, more expensive, and later in the tech tree. So it's a shame. I find any just flat upgrade is boring in any game, honestly. I like the idea of every unit being valid right up until the end. And I just think being like, oh, it is the same but better. There's no reason not to get the better one if you can afford it. Whereas it's nice when it's like, oh, here's some more elite infantry, but this one, say, has a halberd, but your other stuff is a better, you know, is still a good damage dealer for killing, you know, sort of enemy fodder units, or like they're faster or something. Like, I still like there to be utility rather than flat upgrades. So that pains me a bit, but again, they're limited, so I don't know what they could have done, really, besides just sort of, I don't know, you can't even give them a different weapon. That's the problem. The law of Bloodletters is that they have that sword. They have a Hellblade. That's part of them. Like, it's literally part of them. So, you know, what can you do? What can you do to diversify that? So they are a bit stuck there, which is a shame. But, you know, fine. So, Khorne, Cavalry, and Chariots. This is where things get a bit interesting, and where you'll see that they seem to be hand-picking. They seem to be hand-picking units for the gods. Okay, Gorebeast Chariot of Khorne. What better thing than to give that to Khorne, right? A Gorebeast Chariot. You know, the whole, like, flesh and metal amalgamation of scary. Yeah, Khorne, right? It's Khorne all over. So it makes a lot of sense. So, Khorne, Cavalry and Chariots, Gorebeast Chariot of Khorne. Looks great, obviously. Very scary, covered in spikes. It's Khorne. What do you want? You know, Gorebeast Chariots are even heavier and sturdier than other Chaos Chariots. No normal beast would have the strength to pull such a massive instrument of war, and they are therefore pulled into battle by a Gorebeast. A muscular creature renowned for its violent temperament, these grunting brutes strike their prey with such shocking force that those not impaled upon jutting armour spikes are torn apart by the impact. Ugh. Even the lowliest of beasts recognise the bulky shape of a Gorebeast as synonymous with death. Yeah. Each ironclad chariot, drawn by one of these formidable mutants, is thus followed at some distance by circling carrion crows and slinking scavenger hounds, waiting to feast on the bloody remnants of a Gorebeast's grim harvest. Hell of a write-up for them. Very cool. And it's just so Khorne. So, you know, I just don't see them giving a Gorebeast chariot to, like, you know, Nurgle or Tzeentch or Slaanesh. It just doesn't suit them as well. You know? So I like the idea of these sort of bespoke transplants. You know what I mean? They're getting stuff from the Warriors of Chaos, but they're hand-picking them a bit. So that seems to be the case. And we'll see more of that soon. So, notable characteristics. Those Gorebeast chariots, ridden by followers of Khorne, are constantly in a frenzy from the thrill of the hunt and the kill. So they're frenzy. Fine. So this puts them at a disadvantage when it comes to defence, something they don't tend to worry about. The cheapest option for cavalry of the Khornate Horde is the cheapest option, guys. A Gorebeast chariot is the cheapest option. If you look at Warriors of Chaos, so Warriors of Chaos, cheaper than a Gorebeast chariot, you'd have all the Marauder cavalry, I think like all 3 of the Marauder cavalry, and you would have a Chaos chariot, a standard Chaos chariot. That's 4 cavalry options that are cheaper in the standard, like, Warriors of Chaos roster. Arguably the basic Chaos Knights, I forget their cost, but possibly Chaos Knights, maybe not the Chaos Knights with lances. But, like, Gorebeast chariots are not cheap by any means. So, Khorne have some very, very elite cavalry, clearly. So, speaking of which, Blood Crushers of Khorne. So, Blood Crushers, the most favoured of all Bloodletters, that's right, more Bloodletters, are granted the honour of becoming Blood Crushers. Blood Crushers are Khorne's shock cavalry, a deadly combination of battle-frenzied Bloodletter and the unstoppable crushing mass of a juggernaut of Khorne. You know, being the big old you know, monstrous mount ridden by all of the other lords and heroes that are bloodletters. So, you know. When the demonic legions go to war, bellowing hordes of blood crushers stampede across the battlefield, trampling Khorne's foes into unrecognisable pulp. When battle begins, blood crushers relentlessly hurl themselves at the strongest point of an enemy's lines. Here they hack, maim and gore their way through the strongest troops the foe can muster, exalting Khorne's name with savage joy for each enemy slain. So, notable characteristics. Powerful, demonic shock cavalry, providing additional physical resistance, as demons, vulnerable to banishment, but unable to rout. Technically a demon riding another demon into battle, which is fun. It's true. Just demons riding demons, you know. You wanted demons? Now your demons have got demons. Skull Crushers of Khorne. So what I like here, these two seem very similar, but slightly different uses here, so there's not a flat upgrade. From one to the other. You've got these guys being the shock cavalry, because, you know, bloodletters, they're all lithe and, you know, killy, focus more on killing than their own sort of personal safety. Whereas Blood Crushers of Khorne, exalted in the eyes of Khorne, these murderous knights are gifted with juggernauts to carry them to war. These massive demonic mounts are made of living metal and pure rage. They are dealers of untold destruction who grind their foes beneath steel sinews and brass hooves. As the blood-crazed knights bellow their battle cries, their fearsome mounts snort, steam, and pour out divots the size of shallow graves before stampeding toward the ranks of their prey and flattening anything in their way. So these are ridden by knights. These are ridden by, you know, just Chaos Warriors, basically. So they're really heavily armoured. So less quick, you know, less quick, less killy, but a lot more durable. So you've got your shock cavalry and you've got your real, like, brawling cavalry, which I think is really cool. It's nice to see that variety there. I know it doesn't seem like a lot of variety, but, you know, it makes a big difference. Difference between, like, Grail Knights and Grail Guardians, you know? One is just more survivable, one is just much more punchy. So I like that. So I like that a lot. So notable characteristics. The most powerful human force in a Khornate army. No surprise there. They're powerful because they've got demons in them. You know, it's not the whole unit is mortal. So their powerful steeds stoke fear in the hearts of their enemies, because all the demons cause fear, makes sense. One of the most terrifying, powerful charges in the old world. Still one of the most powerful charges, even though these guys aren't technically the shock cavalry variant. So they all have a hell of a punch, though. So really cool stuff. I think these are really, really fun. Just really scary units. You know, similar sort of Demigryph Knights, but just made of pure evil, as opposed to feathers. Anyway, we'll move on to evil. The combination of evil and feathers is a Tzeentch thing. So we'll move on to evil feathers in another roster reveal, I'm sure. So Khorne monsters and beasts. Chaos Warhounds. We've seen plenty of them already in the battle demo. In fact, we've seen plenty of the Skull Crushers, and I'm always going to get these two mixed up. So you've got the Skull Crushers and the Blood Crushers. So if you're a demon, you're crushing blood. If you're mortal, you're crushing skulls. It's all just such generic evil, you know? It's all just blood and skulls, everything. It's going to take me a long time to get those two sussed out in my mind. But, you know, I'm sure once I start playing it, it'll come to me. But, yeah, it's all blood and skulls with this guy. So, Khorne, Monsters and Beasts, Chaos Warhounds. In Norsca, wolves and hounds prowl in the flickering shadows of the campfires made by the barbarian tribespeople of the Frozen Lands. The further north the tribe dwells, the more likely it is that the hounds that follow them will be mutants, their bodies swollen by the energies of chaos. Brutish and bloodthirsty, the Warhounds of Chaos are natural killers built of muscle and fang that lurk in the wilderness in ravening packs. They will even charge a spear wall with total abandon. Their only concern, the moment when their slobbering jaws sink into juicy, yielding flesh. So, this is also something that makes me think they might have tailor-made stuff. Because Chaos Warhounds, although it's a very generic unit, and you could just assume everyone will get one, Khorne have a huge hole in their roster. Or to say they have one major weakness, which is cannons. Just like artillery can just rip through all their units. Like a cannonball, you know, into some big unit like a bloodthirster that can't like hide in a tree, you know, or any of the cavalry units, just one cannonball. I mean, think Demigryph Knights in Warhammer 2. Any artillery against them, one cannonball, and you've lost like a third of your unit. It's crippling. And so they've got to have something quick that can harry the enemy back line. They need something that can keep them safe from missiles while they're butchering their way through the front lines, or else they can lose everything valuable, just straight away. So they've got to have those sort of units. So Chaos Warhounds, they are still very in keeping with Khorne, because it's just like, go bring me blood. And skulls, I guess, go, you know? It's just rampant violence, because they're just, you know, crazy evil beasties. So it fits, but also it fits a niche in the roster. It fills a gap while still remaining thematic. So I do wonder if Chaos Warhounds aren't actually going to be, you know, lacking in the other more mobile rosters. So we'll see about that. Also, Chaos Furies. Oh, actually, first, notable characteristics. Exceptionally quick and good for tearing down low armoured units in the enemy back line. See? It's very difficult to get into the back line with a lot of Khorne's units. The lowest tier unit in the Khorne army. But poor fodder to hold a front line. Puppers. Aw, puppers. With lots of additional teeth, but puppers. And extra jaws and jaw flaps. Like, they got that weird thing, like Alien. Or is it Predator, where it's like... It's my impression of of a Chaos Warhound. It's very good. So, Khorne-specific Fleshhounds fulfill a similar role later in the tech tree. So yes, there are Khorne-specific Fleshhounds later on. So, next up, Chaos Furies of Khorne. So that is something that is a bit more specific here. The fact that it's got brackets Khorne makes me think that they will be brackets not Khorne. So clearly some of the other, you know, gods will have Chaos Furies here. So Furies are yowling shards of malevolent energy. Fun. Chaos in its purest form. With little in the way of intelligence, they are utterly subservient to the whims of the dark gods, and shift in aspect and power as the balance of the dark pantheon alters. Really cool. Really cool stuff. They are easily subjugated by other demons, whom they regard with a mix of dread and awe. Furies swarm at the edges of the battle, avoiding the thickest fighting if they can. Only when they sight a vulnerable victim do they descend, a wailing mass from which there can be no escape. So again, it's good to have something like harpies or bats or whatever, something like that can bog down the enemy back line. So it's just more ways to sort of tie up missile units before they can sort of wreak havoc to your most expensive units. So I like that. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. Gives actual strategy other than, you know, draw a box around your units, Control G, right click, wait. That's basically what you have to do. Just lock the group, tap to attack, done. But no, there's some nuance here. There's some ways to harass, and yeah, I like that. So, notable characteristics, extremely fast moving, if lightweight, flyers. Also, these would be really useful for screening like the potential for enemy flying units if you have a Bloodthirster. Because remember, you have very little in the way of ranged units as Khorne, so you are going to want to make sure you're shielded from enemy flyers. So your Lord doesn't get bogged down in the sky, because that could be really bad for them. So, you know, useful. Very useful to have that in the roster. So anyway, able to deploy ahead of the front lines to harass the enemy, the Mark of Khorne confers additional spell resistance and a more powerful charge over Furies dedicated to other gods. So, I like that a lot. Fleshhounds of Khorne. So this is the dedicated Khorne, you know, hounds. But Fleshhounds are a little bit more than just marked Chaos Warhounds. So, yeah. Very scary things. Fleshhounds are Khorne's foremost tool of vengeance. When a being, mortal or demon, rouses the blood god's ire, he rises from the skull throne and sounds a single sonorous note on a great brass horn. This blast echoes through the mortal and demonic realms alike as a peal of portentous thunder, rousing fleshhounds from their slumber and loosing them upon the hunt. It's very cool. It's just Khorne going, I want that guy dead. Go, hounds, go. Rip him to shreds. Good boy. Sit, boo-boo, sit. Few can survive gory pursuit by these relentless carnivores. For fleshhounds of... Excuse me. Yeah, I'm going to drink some tea. This is why I tell you guys to... It's medicinal. That makes it sound like I put brandy in it or something. It's just tea. Still, I'm British. I need it to live. So, full fleshhounds are faultless and instinctive trackers, able to harry their quarry across fen, forest, and stone without once losing the scent. It's really cool. They're so gruesome and horrible. Look at them. That is not a good boy. There's a nasty boy. Very nasty boy. So, Spawn of Khorne. A grisly death is not the worst fate A grisly death is not the worst fate that one who has trod the path of Khorne can suffer. For the Blood God is inhuman and whimsical. So whimsical. So much whimsy. And he makes no distinction between a beneficial or disadvantageous gift. Even the most vaunted Chaos Lord can find himself disfigured in an instant, his body racked with a multitude of debilitating mutations. Should Khorne continue to pile on his dubious gifts, the recipient will devolve into a mindless, hideous creature known as a Chaos Spawn. So, yep, they have Chaos Spawn as well, which I really like. I think that's nice to have some Chaos Spawn in the roster, because it's the same trajectory that a lot of Chaos Warriors have. You know, they either sort of fall in battle but are worthy and are turned into, your bloodletters and things, or you kind of get those gifts early, you know, and it's like, oh, you're worthy, have some extra limbs. I'm sure that's a good idea, you know, there's just so many ways that worshipping Chaos can go wrong, so I just like that that's immediately present here. Also, big old damage dealer in the front line, Chaos Spawn. Like, the whole thing's just ripping people apart, like, writhing around. There's a bunch of writhing blades and things, you know. So I really like it, really fits. So notable characteristics: no regard for human life, much less their own. Will run completely out of control once engaged and injured. Fire and forget, so they will just rampage. And, yeah, love it. So it just fits so well. That's really what they're for, Chaos Spawn. You know, there's just some mass in the front line that's going to be a pain. Good damage dealer, big mass. Very nice. So, as happy bashing down a castle door as they are bashing skulls. Nice to have confirmation that there's something else, a siege attacker. So, that's really useful. And also, Minotaurs of Khorne. This is really what solidified the idea that they're giving bespoke units to each of the Chaos factions here, rather than just getting like a bunch, like a selection, then repainting them all. Because I think Minotaurs of Khorne fit Khorne, well, just Minotaurs, they fit Khorne way more than they do like any other. Maybe like Nurgle would be quite a good one, but like, I don't know, Tzeentch, they sort of lack the subtlety a bit, and Slaanesh, I think they lack the sort of the grace, you know, so they wouldn't fit as well in those rosters. Not to say that you couldn't have them in those rosters, but I think it's fair to say that there are other units that are thematically a better fit that they could retrofit and, you know, stylize for that god, right? You follow me? Good. So Minotaurs of Khorne, they really fit with Khorne's thing, and it gives them some like heavy-hitting monstrous infantry, which I think is really good. You know, the Chaos Spawn are good just to sort of soak up damage and be pin cushions and whatever. Minotaurs are a bit better for just like finding and killing something. They're very good for like dealing with like if they can get the jump on enemy cavalry, they can get some good hits in, stuff like that. Whereas Chaos Spawn, they just sort of die on the charge. But you know, Minotaurs I think are more of a battering ram, I think. So I like it. I like it a lot. So, to the Minotaurs of Khorne, a battlefield is a place of maddening excess. The scent of gore in their flaring nostrils drives them wild, and they bellow their hunger for all to hear. They charge with a thundering impact, horns lowered to impale, then strike blow after blow against their hapless enemy. Once their victims have been hacked apart, the Khornators, just love that, just Khornators, it's a great name, slake their thirst by tearing at raw flesh with their gore-encrusted nails and gulping down great hunks of steaming meat, even whilst the battle rages on around them. They really fit Khorne, don't they? I love it. So when called to war, these beasts reach into the piles of weapons and armour heaped in offering before the herdstones, equipping themselves with the largest and most formidable weapons they can find. These weapons were laid in celebration of victory, their erstwhile owners slain upon some forgotten battlefield. In amongst the rusted blades can sometimes be found those once carried by the warriors of long-lost empires, crafted using methods and metals no longer known to any of the peoples of the world. Fragments of tarnished armour that might have been made for the guards of long-dead forgotten kings. So cool. So cool. And just the idea of the herdstones being this sort of just this place of offering for countless generations. And so when it's obviously being offered to a god, right? One of the Chaos Gods of the Hearthstone. So the idea that the gods would summon their minions to fight for them, and that bounty would be sort of there to utilize in that sort of holy quest, or unholy, I guess, in the case of the Chaos God. So I think it's really cool. I think it's really thematic, and it just beautiful world building. Beautiful world building. This, to me, it feels like it enriches Beastman as well as Khorne, and I like that. I like when they do stuff like this. So, variants. Dual axes and great weapons. So that is really cool. Again, forget shields. Oh, that's stupid. So either mad, like, just general damage dealing, or some good anti-large with the great weapons. So really, really cool. It's going to be armor piercing across the board if it's anything like, Minotaurs in Warhammer 2. So, great weapons, that's for killing bigger targets, not just for getting armor piercing. They're going to have armor piercing regardless. I mean, this thing with an axe, it's going to go through armor. Like, let's be reasonable here. So, notable characteristics: fueled by the scent of blood, their power increases with every slain enemy. So they too have that Khorne thing of, getting more powerful the more they kill, which I really like. Pledged to Khorne due to their relentless need for fresh meat. Armoured, armour piercing, fearless and destructive. Very cool. Very, very cool indeed. And finally, this is a big surprise. It's a good one. Soul Grinder of Khorne. So the Soul Grinder, obviously, looks terrifying. Can't wait to see the model rendered. It's going to be... it's going to be good. So, when a demon's physical body is slain, he can surrender his true name to the Forge of Souls. The dark bargain sealed, his crippled essence is bound to a mighty warp metal hulk. Thus is he reborn as a Soul Grinder. A Soul Grinder's clanking tread shakes the ground with every step, and it is devilishly fast for a creature its size, able to scuttle swift as a horse's gallop, or even faster should the scent of battle touch its nostrils. Piston-driven legs thud home with sickening force, crushing to a bloody pace to those beneath. So, things like the Soul Grinder are quite contentious. Generally, for a lot of Warhammer fans, certainly Warhammer Fantasy fans, because it's one of those units that is present in both Fantasy and 40k, but it feels more at home in 40k in a lot of respects. But I think that Khorne has always been very heavy metal, so I think it's fine. I love it. I think it's fine for me. In Warhammer Fantasy, we have Skaven with, like, motorbikes, right? Hell, the Empire have a mechanical steed, which actually I think is ridiculous. But, there's engineering involved, and I think if we take what we learnt from Disney's Marvel's Iron Man, we know that you can have a robot suit, but it's powering it that's the problem, you see. But turns out you can get a lot of battery life from grinding up the willing souls of those who give themselves to Khorne. So, soul batteries from Energizer. The Energizer Bunny, but he eats your soul. That lasts for a long, long time. So something like that. So I think it fits. I think it's fine. But I know it's contentious. You guys are absolutely... you have my permission to hate it, but I think it's going to be really fun, and I think it fits rather nicely. So, but yeah, definitely contentious. Definitely a contentious sort of unit. But anyway, but look at it. It looks so cool. So, notable characteristics. A truly horrific amalgamation of metal and flesh that causes terror. Yeah, obviously. Obviously it causes terror. Can fire its extremely powerful weaponry while on the move and charging the enemy. Oh, so yeah, he does have some sort of soul cannon or something. I know it's got a name, I can't remember what it's called, but never mind. Highly resistant to physical and magical harm, and really tremendously awful to kill. Yeah. Bloodthirster. Those far away. Another one. We got the Lord one, and we got this one, which is actually pretty good. It's only 2 Bloodthirster flavoured things rather than 5 of the other ones, bloodletters. So, counting the cavalry, by the way. So, those far enough away from bloodthirsters to survive their onslaught commonly recall an overwhelming impression of vast size and unchecked barbarity, of roaring and snarling death upon riding upon Stygian wings that eclipse the sun. A bloodthirster's ruddy skin is covered with coarse fur and brass armour, slick and gleaming with the blood of innumerable victims. This armour is forged upon the demon's flesh by Khorne himself, and thereafter becomes a living part of the demon, even whilst maintaining a brutal intelligence of its own. As such, even the bloodthirster's armour is wrathful and longs for slaughter. Kind of ridiculous, but yeah, it's all like soul-fueled, isn't it? So, yeah, creepy. Very creepy. Notable characteristics. Flight. Even on tattered wings, it's still flight. Is still flight. Flight, even on tattered wings, is still... Sorry, yeah, okay, my bad. I misread it and thought, that's not English. This is actually English. Flight, even on tattered wings, is still flight. So this is actually a bit of... I think this is them teasing a bit, because everyone was saying, I can't believe you'd have Skarbrand flying in the trailer, when all he did was jump up. You know, with his tattered wings. Because he can't fly. He doesn't actually have flight. Bloodthirsters do have flight, but they don't have tattered wings like Skarbrand does. His whole thing is that they got ruined when Khorne flung him out of his sight. When he went, no, bad, you attacked me, personality, really quick, just so tiny amount of personality, hoofed him, just yeeted him across the planet, through realms, through dimensions, and he landed, and it knackered his wings. He couldn't fly anymore, right? But, so this is sort of teasing people. This is such a troll. But, you know what? Fair enough. So, flaming, magical attacks that can roast men, crash larger creatures, and destroy gates. Good. As one of the largest, most terrifying beasts on the battle, has an advantage versus almost everything. Yeah. So, I do like the Bloodthirster is a standalone unit as well, rather than like just a lord or hero choice. I think it makes sense as just a unit rather than a hero, because I think they're more concerned with just murdering everybody. Like, a lot of them, sure, you'll have a Bloodthirster lord that the demons will rally behind, but I think you can have any other Bloodthirster like on the table. I think it's going to be one that's just there out of self-interest, who's just going to murder stuff. He's just there to kill things. You know, it's like, oh, there's an army. Yeah, cool. I'll turn up and I can kill things. So rather than being a hero that sort of involves some kind of effort leading, it's not really their thing. Unless, of course, it's their army and they go, I'm, you know, almost orc-like. I'm the best. I am the champion of Khorne here. You are all coming to battle under my banner. So, you know, it's either that or I get to kill stuff. So, you know, I think it fits. I think it fits is what I'm saying. So, Khorne Artillery and War Machines. The Blood Shrine of Khorne. Mounted upon a carnage-fueled demon engine, the Blood Shrine judders, spins and zooms across battlefields at great speeds, desperate to be smothered in gore, and so draw the gaze of their mighty patron, the Blood God and his most powerful servants. The Blood Shrine is a mobile altar that will empower Karneth's demons? Karneth? Anyway, Karneth's demons to greater heights of butchery and wanton slaughter. So yeah, I like this. I like there's like a support thing, similar to the what's it called? Is it also a Blood Shrine? The Dark Elf one, you know, the one that the Witch Elves ride about on. That one, you know, similar to that. The Blood Cauldron, is that right? Something along those lines. Anyway, similar to that, just like a support chariot thing. So, anyway, a massive, near-living chariot designed to grind lesser creatures beneath its wheels, heals every moment it is in melee combat with the enemy. So, as it feeds, it heals, which is very cool. And it boosts morale for nearby allies as they rally to its terrifying cause. This kind of reminds me a little bit of, if it boosts morale, then it's sort of putting off them crumbling, essentially. So it reminds me kind of like the Mortis engine. It's there and it'll help sustain the demons around it, rather than the undead around it. So I like that as a thing. Also, just keeps healing, so it's like, you've got to hit it hard and get rid of it fast, or it's going to get more and more value, which I really like. It's really fun. Also, we have the Skull Cannon. So here, this picture, actually, you see the Blood Throne, I believe it is. Well, yeah, I think it's the Blood Throne, not the Skull Throne. I think the Skull Throne is specifically what Khorne sits on, but then his minions sit on Blood Thrones. Yeah, and then you've got the Skull Cannon, and then on the right you've got the Blood Shrine. That's the one. So yeah, throne on the left, shrine on the right, and cannon in the middle. So cool stuff though. As the skull cannon grinds across the battlefield, its spiked wheels and rollers mangle everything in its path. Those who somehow survive the initial onset of the grinders are fed screaming into the skull cannon's gaping maw, there to be roasted by demonic fire and ground to fragments. Only the skulls, so beloved of Khorne, are retained and fed into the mighty cannon atop the machinery from which the demon engine takes its name. They slam into the enemy ranks, scattering foes like 9 pins, and leaving a trail of scorched and blazing dead behind. So they're pretty grim. Also, one thing that's really amusing is the skulls, when they land, they'll just sort of hop around and bob around and roll about, after having gone through a bunch of people, and they'll just laugh and shout insults at everybody because they're just rage-filled. So they're like, yeah, I'll bite out your kidneys, scum. And, that's just an example. I don't know if one has ever said that, but I imagine they have. And, you could basically the only way you can really deal with it is to just smash the skull. But if you do that, you will be forever cursed with nightmares until the day you die. So, there's no winning. It's such an amazing taunt, which I love, because I think Khorne is obviously all about just direct confrontation, and I think there's no better way to sort of get the champions of your enemies to come forward than that kind of psychological warfare. But it's so direct, because it's Khorne, It just like, here's a challenge, it's just got posted through the bodies of many of your townsfolk, and now is calling them all douchebags, so come fight me, valiant warrior. So I think it's great. I think it's really fun. I think it's really thematic, even though it is a ranged thing. It's a ranged thing that is fueled by claimed skulls, so it's still very direct in its approach, but it does give some gameplay variety, which means they're not going to be so boring to play. There'll be a lot of spectacle, but not a lot of strategy, and I think this gives them some extra dimension, which I really like. I think it's really fun. So again, a bit of a contentious unit, these ones, because again, they do fit the 40k aesthetic just as well as they do fantasy, or more so, as a lot of people would say. There lies the contention. Similar to the Soul Grinders, but I like them. I think they fit Khorne rather nicely. So, really just making your enemies suffer in order to make machines of more slaughter. It just fits really well, I think. But anyway, Khorne's answer to battlefield artillery is still a deadly force in melee combat. Yeah, they're still whirling, bladed, monstrous things with tongues. I like their little tongues sticking out. They just look a bit goofy. Like, hey! Love it. So the skulls. So, we've read all that, haven't we? I don't know why I thought I was there. So, harvests their enemies' skulls for more ammo once locked in combat. So the idea they have ammo replenishment if you make them fight. That to me, it doesn't feel like a normal artillery unit. That feels like a Khorne artillery unit to me. So I like it. Can fire and move to keep the enemy on the back foot, which is kind of scary. You can zip around while still firing. Obviously, it can only shoot forwards because it's a cannon, but whatever. So, war, honor, courage, rage, strength, hate. If you're looking for an army to unleash your rage and fury upon an enemy, to make true total war with and burn all around it to the ground with little regard for allegiances, you may be able to stop reading our roster reveals here. Oh, but what delights and mysteries you may miss, eh? The Khornate forces require precise planning and strategy to make up for their clear weaknesses, but once an enemy is caught, they are doomed. Keep to the battle cry. Blood for the blood god, skulls for the skull throne. Hear, hear. Huzzah! I know, I decided they were British very early on. And I'm going to roll with it. Ain't nothing you can do about it. My channel, my rules. So, I think it's awesome. I'm going to leave on the Soul Grinder, because we haven't seen that properly yet. But, absolutely sick. I love it, and I'd love to know your thoughts on what what marks of Khorne, what marks of each god may grant. That's a weird way to phrase that, and it doesn't even really ask the question. What units do you think the rest are going to have? Do you think they're all going to have Chaos Warriors? Because I think they might all have Chaos Warriors, maybe. But I doubt they're all going to have Gore-Beast Chariots, and maybe not even Chaos Warhounds. And, God, what else is there? We've got the Blood Crushers for more Chaos Warriors. Oh, and Minotaurs. Yeah, I doubt they're all going to have Minotaurs. So what other cool units do you think they're going to have? Because I really want to know what you guys think. Because it does really seem to me that they are handpicking stuff from the other rosters, whether it be Beastmen or Warriors of Chaos, to like sprinkle in to help sort of flesh out the rosters. And I think it's going to be different for each one. Because everything in this roster fits Khorne very, very well. And I don't think the same could be said if they just grabbed those and put them in Nurgle or Tzeentches or, you know, whatever. So I'd love to know your thoughts on it. I'd love to know your thoughts, guys, because I'm super intrigued. Because I know I'm not going to be able to guess. I know I'm not going to be able to think of everything. But you guys tend to have it covered. So, yeah. Anyway, I hope your tea hasn't gone cold like mine has. I hope not. So, oh yeah, final, I need to sell out or else I don't eat. So, yep, go to nexus.gg/Janet if you're looking to pre-order Warhammer 3. It helps me out a lot. And you can also pre-order the next Warhammer 2 DLC, as to say the final Warhammer 2 DLC by the looks of it. So, you can also pre-order that there too, and it really helps me out and gives you a Steam key, and it's, yeah, great. Other than that, comment, like, subscribe, and I hope you're having a lovely week. Take care, guys. Have fun.